Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about why I abandoned the chasing tour. Now on the face of it, the chasing tour looked like it was going to be bloody amazing. 6 stages including an ITT, basically Tuesday to Sunday. I was actually really looking forward to it, and I set myself a challenge of completing all of the events, but I only unfortunately managed 2 events, which is pretty poor. Now, the first stage was an ITT, which, I was quite looking forward to, even though I don't do ITTs very often. But here's the first kind of issue. Now, they have 4 different start times during the day, which I absolutely get because it's going to give everyone an opportunity, or most people an opportunity to race in this. However, this ITT, as you can see, was a mass category start, which was just really weird and a little bit off-putting. I actually like racing with, my own category because, I like racing with people of a similar ability. And sometimes I do stupid things when, I'm trying to chase A's down, which is just, I don't know. I just don't find it as enjoyable as racing with my own category. Now, something else that was quite interesting was only one of the starting times had proper, time trial pens, the ones that you would, mainly see on a Thursday night, for the actual Zwift sort of time trials with individual starting times. Once again, this is something new. This is a tour. Let's try and, I don't know, I just thought it would be interesting if they could have done that with every single start time rather than just one of the start times. So I was a bit unsure as to why, they left it like that, whether that's Zwift's fault or whether that's the chasing tour's fault, I don't know. But it would have been cool to have that sort of individual start time for all of the start times, basically. Now I'm going to come on to a point with the categories. Now it was a sort of a mass start, and that was the same with all of the races, which once again kind of confusing because I'm not sure how difficult it is to have different start times, but once again surely that influences the race at different times. So say for example you start at an earlier time and there's more people racing, you're going to get more of a draft. Say if you're a high category, B, you're going to be able to stay with the A's for longer. It's going to give you a better time than, say, if you're in another race with fewer Bs. So I just thought that was interesting and well. And here you can see my result. I actually sort of did my my threshold, so 3.7 watts for, 28 minutes, 30 minutes, and I still finished 87th. So, I'm not sure why they didn't look at mixed categories. The other point I would say here is that the actual categories themselves were done off the Zwift racing sort of beta app. So rather than your normal A's, B's, C's and D's, it were, people were putting pens based on, whether they were silver, gold, or platinum. I think bronze was in there as well. So it's just interesting that they've sort of done it like that as well. And once again with this race, the second race now, you can see with the mass start here that, I'm trying to hold with the A's for as long as possible. And when you're in a GC competition, the race with the more competitors are going to get a better sort of edge because you're going to be staying with the faster riders for longer. I mean, yeah, sure, you've still got to race and you've still got to be at the top of your game if you want to be anywhere near the top. But I don't know, I just thought it was quite surprising to see the mass starts. But, these are things I guess that can be improved in the future. And, kudos for doing something different. So I'm not saying that it was a bad event. Actually, I, pretty much enjoyed, the first 2 races. But just the fatigue of racing with the higher categories, I think sort of did me in. That's a pretty poor excuse, I know that. But it just got to this race and I kind of lost a bit of enthusiasm to finish the whole thing because, I don't know, there was pretty much, no incentive there at all for me, whether it was a, King of the Mountains or a sprint. There wasn't anything different apart from it was, 6 races in a row with an ITT. So yeah, I'll just commentate over this race a little bit. So this was the second race, and as you can see, like, we're still hanging on to the A's here, and there's going to be a bit of a push, and eventually we're going to separate and come into, our own little group here. as I say, that's why it would have been better to have, split categories. So you're racing with, people of similar ability, and you're not trying to chase, A's or B's if you're a Cat C on the front. Essentially, I just want, these kind of events to be as enjoyable as possible. And I'm quite used to seeing the same old thing. But, the recent Dirt Series threw something different in there, which was good. And I know the Flamme Rouge racing events are also very, very good, if not very, very difficult. I haven't actually done one of those events in a little while. But maybe the next one. So I know there are different, things out there at the moment. I was just hoping with this one, I just had really sort of high expectations. It just seemed like it was going to be a really, really good event. But I was just a little bit disappointed. And that's my own opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. Some of you out there might think, oh, it was brilliant, or it's a really, good event, which is fine. You can disagree with me. This is just my opinion on this one. So we're just sort of climbing up the, don't know which climb this is, the Temple KOM, there you go. And I've just found myself a little group full of bees. And just trying to do my best to hang on. I definitely was feeling it after the ITT. A 28-minute ITT is pretty tough, to be honest with you. Now, in this one, I didn't actually swap bikes at all. I just kept with the same bike, as you can see here. And we're still in this nice little group. A little push here up to the top. But I was kind of, as you can see by my power graph down the bottom, we're kind of saving quite a bit of energy, to be honest with you. And it's all about that Temple KOM again. Now, I do need to start getting better at that sort of surge and then recover. It's not something I've been brilliant at. So, here we go again. And I knew I was going to lose this group because, I just stick to my threshold at this point, stick to sort of 270 to 280 watts for as long as I can. But I was really struggling at this point mentally to get over the top here, especially when these guys just come flying past. I used my aero boost to try and get back, but it didn't kind of happen. And I'm sort of, middle of the pack here, 46th out of 107th, but still trying to do my best to get up here and finish as high as I can to, still ensure that I'm high up in the GC as possible. So not too long until we get to the top here. Just got an A behind me. They're off into the distance now, but just want to try and stay with this guy with the mountain bike. Now, it was a bit of an interesting tactic here. So I read on a couple of the Zwift Insider sort of pages that actually, if you're on the last lap, it's probably best to stay with the mountain bike and not change. You're not going to gain anything. So this chap here decided to do that. There's one other person with us as well. But on the tarmac, I sort of thought here, you know what, going to need to give it a little dig. And if we do that, we might actually lose the guy with the mountain bike. So I put in a few watts here, sort of 280 up to 300 watts. And it was kind of interesting because I was surprised I actually had this sort of energy left, which obviously means that I wasn't trying hard enough up the KOM. But as you can see, we are kind of pulling away from this guy behind. And I know for him, it must have been pretty frustrating on that bike. He must have been trying so hard, especially with two of us on Tron bikes. He's just dropped there, unfortunately. And in my head now, I'm just thinking about sort of beating this other guy here on the way to the finish, to try and finish 47th. But, it's been a pretty difficult couple of days at this point. And, even in my head, I was still planning to do the next race, but it got to the following day and I just couldn't do it. And I really didn't have any motivation to do it, unfortunately. So, hopefully they're going to look at this in the future and sort of they can make a few changes with it. But as I say, good on them for setting up this tour. And you never sort of know how many people are involved in setting it up. So, hopefully it'll keep going and get a little bit better. So, as you can see here, I am just revving myself up, ready for the final little push, and off I go. There we go. I'm just putting a few watts down. I kind of see this guy isn't really trying very hard to overtake me. So it was a pretty nice 47th place. If there is such a thing as a nice 47th place. Anyway, here are the results on the screen. So yeah, not my finest hour, but I guess, you know, some things to have a look at in the future for the Chasing Tour. But yeah, thanks for putting it on. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.